Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So this presentation is an introduction into report functionality. We'll be following up with the additional Zoom presentation later to go into further training on specific report breakdown. So reports are located in Ecotime web browser. Report access is given based on delegation access. Supervisor and timekeepers have the ability to review their employees within reports. You will only be able to see the employees you have delegate authority over. If you cannot view their timesheet, you will not be able to see the employees in reports. So, understanding your report icons. We will only be covering the icons and functions that are currently available for immediate use. Please note that any with an asterisk will not be mentioned due to not being available. The available icons we have is to create a new report, to delete an existing report, to copy an existing report, to share a filter between reports. Although this is actually available, we will actually be dedicating time at a later date to fully explain this function, to refresh reports, and to see a grid preview of reports. So let's do this. To select reports, you need to expand using the greater than symbol in the navigation panel to the left. At the end of the presentation, I'll be adding in the comments in Excel that will break down the different criteria within each report. Please note that Ecotime reports are broken into two sections, new reports and timesheet reports. These two categories will break down the time inputted directly into Ecotime. UC Path reports will show what is actually transposed to the I-181. These are available the following business day after the timekeeping deadline. You can actually view the timekeeping deadline here, and the URL is placed within the PowerPoint, and you will be able to click it once we have the Zoom available on our topic-based Zooms on UC Math. So by selecting the grid preview, this will allow you to run and preview the report. Then you can export the report to either a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet. It will be a pop-up on your web browser. After the Excel has opened within Excel, you can then save the report to your desktop. So, understanding reports is to understand filter logic. Each report will give you different filter options. From the filters, you can customize the reports needed specifically for your department. Step condition is where the logic is placed. Our step conditions are and, which displays the values of all conditions are true, or evaluates each condition individually and displays the values from each condition if true. Not and displays the values if all conditions are not true. Not or evaluates each condition individually and displays the values from each condition if not true. Now, filtering a report. Specific reports will query according to the fields available. Equals, the result returned must exactly match the values entered. Same concept for does not equal. The results returned does not exactly match the values entered. Is greater than, is less than, and is in between. All of these three, we're typically use them for dates. So is greater than is the results returned will be greater than or exceed the values entered. Is less than, the results returned will be less than or precede the values entered. And is between, is the results returned must be between the two values entered. Going into even further detail on the other ones that we have is like, the results returned will contain the values entered anywhere in the resulting record. We actually use a wildcard, and the % sign is our wildcard that will return all values. Is any of, this field will allow you to add multiple values to the filter. The result return will exactly match the values entered. It's none of, same concept. However, this field will allow you to add multiple values into the filter. The results returned not match the one or more values entered. Typically, is any of and is none of is used for employee IDs when you are trying to search for multiple employees. to save the filters for future use. It's on the top right corner. You can see it right here. A few more functions that are available is our shared option and our published option. The shared option is available to authorize users to access and run reports. Shared filters are stored in a library of filters by reports that can be retrieved by authorized users granted access. However, the shared option is actually what we'll explain further in detail at a later Zoom. The published filter will automatically display all the Ecotime users by report. So if you share something, you can actually just take it. But again, we'll go through a different Zoom. The published will make it available for everyone. So Ecotime has already published filters that will allow you to go by EID, by pay period ending, and so on and so forth. A quick tip is to minimize your screen to be able to see more of the report. So depending on your browser, you may select Control- to minimize your screen. Minimizing your screen is important to allow for more visibility when in reports. So a few scenarios. So now we'll speak about 5 different scenarios that will hopefully get you started in looking at a different report. Each report is slightly different. So starting with adjustment status report is located under the new reports under adjustment status. So with adjustments being open up to 4 pay period endings, this report will help alleviate some of the manual review of timesheet versus going page by page to review if an employee made a time adjustment in a previous pay period. This report will show if an adjustment is not approved, if an adjustment is pending, and if the adjustment has approval. So if you see right here where it says UC Path ID, employee name, pay period, and so on, these are all the available fields that this report will give us back. And so this report is helpful to tell you if the employee made an adjustment, who the action user was, when the action was made, if the time adjustment was processed successfully, if it was approved, who approved it, and when as well. Our next scenario that will be helpful is the calculated timesheet by date range new report. So this is also located under the new reports, and the calculated timesheet takes the inputted time and calculates if the employee qualifies for overtime, shift differential, premium pay, etc. This calculation is done by the configurations within the application and with guidance of labor relations and employee relations. So if we see again on the left side, the UC Path, employee ID, timesheet, pay codes, this is all the available fields that the calculated timesheet by date range new will give us back. So this report is helpful because it'll tell you the pay codes that were entered, the duration of time entered, will tell you the calculation of overtime, holiday, shift differential, and will tell you actually the employee is configured. So it'll show you the bargaining unit, the overtime profile, and the job code. Our next report is the timesheet input report. This is actually now under our timesheet reports. And this report will actually give you who the action user was. So the action user referring to who added time, deleted time, approved the timesheet, etc. It'll go into further depth to let you know when the action user created said action. This is also a very handy report because it'll tell you if a note was made onto the timesheet and the pay period ending in which that note was created. Once again, on the left is the available fields that this report gives us back. So has notes, if you see it right here, will actually give us a yes or no for a very quick visual on this report. So our next report is our output summary UC Path. So our output summary UC Path is located under our UC Path reports. The output summary UC Path is available the following business day after timekeeping has closed. The output summary is very similar to the calculated timesheet. The benefit of the output summary is that the report will show you what was actually sent to UC Path through time and attendance via our I-181. Why is this report helpful? It will tell you the pay codes that were sent to UC Path, the duration of time that was sent to UC Path. It will tell you how they calculated overtime, holiday, shift differential, if there was any errors in the duration of said errors, and will actually tell you if the do not pay box was selected at the time of payroll closing. Once again, these are the available fields on the left that this report will give us back. So previously asked questions that I wanted to highlight during this topic-based Zoom. So a previously asked question is, I would like to know if there's a report that tells me if an employee selected COVID-19 pay. So using the calculated timesheet by date range new, there is a pre-populated filter that will only feed COVID-19 pay codes. And so once you go in, this is already the pre-made filter. And if you see here closely, we have period end date is between March 1st, 2020 and August 31st of 2021. However, this report will only give us the dates in which your department was actually already into Ecotime and your department already fed into Ecotime, and will only give us if it's from May, so May 31st, 2020 to August 31st, 2021. It will not give us any other dates that were outside of Ecotime, along will not give us any transactions that were done through an off cycle in UCPath. And then again, our pay codes is any of, which allows us to make a list. And we have RDC, CSL, just to name a few. Another previously asked question is, I would like to know if there's a report that will tell me if an employee had over a specific amount of hours over the last 12 months to determine FMLA eligibility. So using the output summary report UCPath, there is also a pre-populated filter that will only select hours worked within a 12-month window for the entered employee. So here we have regular hours only. Again, once it's going to be on the output summary report UCPath, giving us the pay period end date is between August 1st, 2020 to August 21st, 2021. UCPath ID begins with, however, where it says begins with, we can also do equals, and earn code ID equals regular or REG regular pay, because we only care to know what the hours worked were. Alrighty, and that precedes our topic-based Zoom. I'm gonna go ahead and open.
So before we continue, Valerie, can you go back to the different reports? Go back to the previous report. So in this report, of course, you have to put in the UCPath ID begins. I mean, you have to, if you're looking for a specific employee, you can interchange the UCPath ID and type in the ID for the employee you're looking for, or you can also change it instead of UCPath ID. When you click on that blue line, you can select among the different filters. Like if you want to know about all the people in your department, you can change the UCPath ID for a department. So these are already pre-made reports that we set up for people to start using. However, you can modify the report and then save it to your own version of Ecotime, and that you can just make your own reports later so you can be using them afterwards. Also, I think there's another report before that, another report that you had to talk about. Was it? Yes, so for the COVID-19 hours. So again, this report will only give you data for the type of access that you have. So depending on, like Valerie said at the very beginning, depending on the different timesheet groups. Sorry, my dog is barking. The different timesheet groups that you have access to, then that's the type of access that you have. I have to go myself. Valerie.
Okay, so I'm actually in Ecotime as myself. And so to run a report, you would actually just log into Ecotime normally. You would then go into reports, and then you would actually then see that we have our three sections: our new reports, our timesheet reports, and our UCPath reports. And I'm selecting the little greater than symbol to actually open and expand. So we were asked to show a few of them. So let me see my first one. Okay, so demo of the output summary report, the one you identified is a way to check how many regular hours have been worked, which is useful to determine. Yeah, of course. So our UC path report. So we'll go here to our output summary UC path. This might be a little smaller. So on the rare chance, instead of minimizing my screen, I'm actually going to zoom in a bit. And if you see here, our already published filter is our reg hours only. I'm going to use an employee just as an example between the dates of August 1st, 2020 to August 21st, 2021, using the UC path ID begins with, and this just going to go ahead and expand where it says and. These are all the available filter criteria that you could choose within the report. So if you see here, UC path ID, employee number, employee name, earn code ID, and so on and so forth. For the job code that was mentioned earlier, let's see if it'll actually be here. Some of them, depending on the report, may not give us a job code. So you just have to find the report that will actually give that as an available field.
There's a title code.
Yeah, the title code, that will give you the same data.
There you go. So the title code.
Yeah, now a lot of these reports were built before UC path. We did had a Ecotime a few months before UC path. So there's still some cleanup that we need to do. For example, you can see their employee number as one of the fields. That's the PPS ID number that we were using before. So some of these fields need to be updated. So we still, we know, Ecotime still has data from, they're still using employee number. So as we are gradually moving away from employee numbers, instead of using UC path ID. So eventually that field will go away, but you know, we're doing it in a gradual step process.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually remove the pay period end date just because I
So
the top. And so to run it, the way we would run it is using the grid preview icon. And this will actually give us the preview of what the report would entail. But that's how you would run a report.
So can you go back and maybe create a report, Valerie? Just show us how you would create a brand new report.
Yes,
Just
of
the
course.
steps to follow.
Okay, I'm gonna do a timesheet input. And we're gonna try to do a completely new one. And so through timesheet input, I'm gonna create a new report adding the saved filter. And my new filter title, I'm gonna just write on our behalf, just test. And so from test, from there, I would open where it says and see all the available fields I have to me. The only, I guess here's where you can see job code and job code title. This is more from like information that was brought from UC path as well. In history, so if this information is now in history and then create an adjustment, this is a good report to also review for that. So if I actually don't know anything that is on this report, I will actually do UC path ID is like and enter my wildcard. And my wildcard being that percentage sign will give me all the available information that I have access to within this report.
Yeah, but no, before you run it, hybrid, if you do the wildcard if you do the wildcard without any other filters, you're gonna get all the information from the beginning of time. So that's gonna be a lot of data. So you wanna make sure that you filter your data with more variables, because I don't think you wanna get everything. So again, as you can say, the current period equals yes. So in this part, it's only gonna give you data about timesheet inputs for all your employees that you have access for the current pay period. So that will be the type of data that you will get based on this report that Valerie is building.
Yes.
So again, the filters give you the different variables that you want to look for. So we invite you to go in there and just build your own reports and look and see what the data is. Now, if you notice the share and publish are boxes are not checked on the right. So if you don't check those boxes, then that means those reports are only going to be available to you only. No one else is going to have access to those reports. So if you are trying to build a report that you don't want anyone to, that only you want for you, then don't select any of those boxes. Now, if you want to share a report that you find it that is useful, then go up by all means, you can share it or publish it. And that way it will be available for everyone. Now, the data that each one of us will get is different. It's only going to be based on the different timesheet group access that we have. So they're not going to get the same results that you do because they don't have, probably they don't have access to your employees. So I just want to point that out.
And then here, after we've done that and we've filtered according to our criteria, we would apply changes. And if I just want to save it towards myself, I would go ahead. And if you see here on the top right where the little floppy disk is, dated term, but it's now a save button. And so you can save it. And now it's been saved so that I can run this whenever I need to the filter criteria that I have set. And then to share and publish, you actually can't select it from the left. You have to select it from the right. But once again, we're going to go over how to actually retrieve a shared filter at a later date. Publish would just make it available to all Ecotime users that have availability to reports. So just keep that in mind when making anything shared or published. Thank you for coming to Ecotime's first topic-based Zoom, and we hope you have a lovely rest of your week and hope to see you on Friday at our one-on-ones.